Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to Game Changers Live. You can catch us each and every week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, LinkedIn, any of your platforms that you would love to enjoy your shows. You can find us there on YouTube as well. My name is Sergio Tigera, and we bring you game changers in their field. And so today, my guest is Akis Tsirigakis. He's coming to us from Greece, from Athens, Greece right now. I'm in Miami, Florida, so we're halfway around the world. And he has served as the chairman of the board of directors, president, and co-CEO of Growth Capital Acquisition Corp since December 19, and he's currently CEO of Nautilus Energy Management Corp and the SevenSeas Investment Fund. He has a master's degree and B.S. in Naval Architecture from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, and we're going to be talking about something that perhaps a lot of our listeners haven't been hearing about, and they're called Special Acquisition Corp, SPACs. And these are incredibly interesting approaches to business, to investing. But before we get into that, Akis, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Tell me a little bit of background on you. You were born in Greece. What was it like growing up in Greece? And where has your career led you since then?
Great to be with you. And yes, it did start in Greece, and then moved to the States as a senior in high school, actually.
Ah, there you go.
As an exchange student, then I studied in the States, of course, at the University of Michigan, and I got a degree in naval architecture. And then I started working in New York in shipping. And I still work in shipping. SevenSeas is an investment fund, a shipping fund. So I never left the space, really. But in 2005, I started a new direction, creating SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies. Now, of course, having the background in shipping, my first SPAC was in shipping, raised in 2005 $200 million for it through a company called the Star Maritime Acquisition, and created Star Bulk. Star Bulk today is the largest dry bulk shipping company listed in the world.
So before we get into that, so let's talk about SPACs. Tell me about what they are and how do they form, and tell me a bit more about that so our listeners can understand.
Okay, then you have a sponsor like me with a background in a special area. It could be finance or shipping or whatever. Then you match up with an underwriter and create the documentation necessary. You go through the Securities and Exchange, the SEC commission process. The blank check company, as it is called, becomes public and raises money through an IPO. It's an initial IPO of a shell company that has to put the funds raised in a trust account. You cannot touch that trust account until you find a suitable counterparty to merge with.
Yeah. So essentially, at first, you create a shell company, and so when people think about creating companies, they think, okay, I got to create a product or service that within that company. But essentially, this is a shell company with a blank check inside of it, and the purpose is to then acquire companies and merge them. And the interesting thing in our conversation offline was that, let's say I wanted to invest in Akis's SPAC. I can't know what he's investing in yet, right? Is that correct?
Actually, yes. You're not allowed to have discussions or pre-arrange the deal. That's the essence of a blank check company.
So that requires then a lot of trust in the individual, in the sponsor of this SPAC, based on the track record, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, because was it easy for you to raise, you said $200 million was your first SPAC?
Correct.
That's a lot of money. That's a good chunk of money. What was it about your track record that allowed people to have that faith and trust in you to put the money into their, believing that you're gonna bring them a return?
Well, the state of shipping at the time was at the top of a super cycle in shipping.
And what year was this?
That was in 2005. That's when we had the SPAC IPO. And the SPAC, because a SPAC has a limited life of 24 months, sometimes 18, but yes. And if you don't invest the funds that you've raised within the 24-month window, you have to return the money to the investors.
Wow. Okay.
So you have a gun on your head to perform and perform timely and well.
And
so,
that's a lot of pressure, because an acquisition or merger just naturally, even a small one, takes time.
Yes, it does. And especially public markets at the time were not familiar with shipping companies so much. Now there are quite a few shipping companies around.
Right.
But back then, you had to explain, how the whole system with shipping works, the charter parties, which are the contracts, the technical things or the attributes of the ships themselves, the works. Of course, being in the space for so many years since my student days helped a lot. I mean, I had a track record in running companies and so forth, so I kind of leveraged that track record.
Where did you find your investors? Were they contacts? Were they family members? How did that come about?
No, the roadshow for the IPO was a 6-week roadshow. It was an amazing thing. No family could put up, this kind
Correct.
of money.
Yeah.
We ran all over the place: Europe, Canada, Israel, everywhere. Of course, around the States, and that's how the money was raised.
And was 200 million your target? What were you aiming for?
That was the target.
That was the target. So you meet your target. Then you go through the IPO process, which is not easy. Obviously, there's quite a lot of red tape and paperwork and regulations that you need to follow. And then you go to NASDAQ. You have some pictures at NASDAQ, and I don't know if that was from your first or your second, third, or fourth, but what was that like to go through that and officially open up as an IPO? I mean, what were you feeling at that time?
Well, I was a technical person mainly. Okay, even running shipping companies is a technical endeavor mostly. Although, of course, it has a lot of financing, legal parameters, stuff like that. But for me, this was a revelation. I hadn't realized that I could, as a technical person, leverage my background to do something in the public markets. So I had to learn fast, actually very fast, not make mistakes that could cost my investors mainly, because
sure.
And I had to build a reputation, which is critical, because you fail once and then you have no second chance probably.
Right. Those are big, high stakes games, and people have a lot of money invested in you. And so, the bell rings and you guys are officially on the clock, so to speak, right? For your 24 months. Yes. Obviously you came into it with some ideas as to what you wanted to do. Was it already solidified in your mind, or were there still some kind of questions as to your approach?
It was solidified that we had to do something in dry bulk rather than tankers.
Okay, so what does that mean? What does dry bulk mean?
Dry bulk means ships that carry grains, wheat, cement, sometimes iron ore, coal, commodities in bulk.
Okay.
Yes. Tankers, of course, carry petroleum products and
fluids.
And containers, of course, carry containers that can have TVs inside or whatever.
Got it.
So, yeah.
So you had to do something in that space. You had a general idea.
I had a general idea of dry bulk rather than tankers. We tried some deals to do with tankers. Didn't work out. We found a deal with a Taiwanese owner, finally, to actually merge with.
And so how did that first SPAC end up?
It was a huge success. That SPAC actually popped the first week of the merger announcing, not just closing. And it performed extremely well. It was, the time was right. Shipping was very, it was in a state of elation. I don't think we're going to see a shipping market that good for the foreseeable future. It's good right now as we speak, but it was an extremely good shipping market, so made things easier.
So when you announced the merger,
yeah,
you said it popped upon announcement. What does that financially mean?
It popped means that we had a $10 share,
Mm-hmm.
and it went to 14.5 within very, very short days.
A 50% jump, yeah.
Yes, that means that we were able to soon thereafter exercise the warrants that came with the initial IPO. So another 120 plus million came into the company. So it was a very successful endeavor.
And then you were hooked. You said, if all of them can go like this, then we got it. Why not keep going, right? And you've done 2, 3, and up to 4 now.
This is the fourth one. Growth Capital Acquisition is the fourth one. We've raised 172.5 million, which is sitting in the trust. We raised it actually exactly a year ago. I mean, we are going to complete it next week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, it's a foregone conclusion that we have a vote decided for the 9th of February. And if all goes well, which we hope it will, we will close the next day, February 10th, 22. So
first off, congratulations, because an amazing track record. Obviously, you're doing things that it's definitely in your lane. You become an expert in this space of SPACs. And this new one, in terms of Growth Capital Acquisition Group, in our conversation earlier, you mentioned LiDAR, and there's a big focus on this technology, which is this kind of light emitting technology that we see in a lot of cars today. And we were talking about video cameras and self-driving cars and so forth. But the need for these lasers essentially to map out the area around you is probably the most effective technology we have today in order to keep us safe and efficient in these automated vehicles. So tell me a bit about that technology and where you guys are in that space.
Yes, to have an autonomous vehicle, first you need to go through the driver-assisted phase, of course. Which is
we crawl before we walk.
Right. Exactly, before you walk. Actually, laser depicts the environment around you in 3D in great accuracy. It complements the actual camera and the radar that the car may have. And actually, with software and AI, you integrate those 3 things. Think of it as the nose, eyes, and ears. You really need all 3 in order to have the best possible. Because I've heard quite a few rumors in the markets that maybe you need this or not the other, and so forth. Well, to have the best depiction of your environment, you need all 3. And I am certain that going forward, we will have all 3. Now, technology evolves. There are concepts about new kinds of cameras, event cameras, that may affect the radar rather than the LiDAR. The LiDAR is what they use in space, NASA or the military, for pinpoint accuracy. And especially you need that if you look in 200 meters down the road. Right. You need accuracy. You need to know whether that car is in the middle lane or on the. You can't just know that the car is there. You need to know early enough so that the car needs to know early enough.
So have time to stop and brake and so forth.
React. So this is a huge technology that's going to affect all our lives, not just vehicles. It's going to be in intersections for municipalities are going to have it for safety purposes. It's going to be in airports and malls. So you can have real-time people flow data. You can have and allocate your resources accordingly. You will know real-time flow of traffic, not just
after the fact and so forth. There's studies and
right. They usually statistical models they use that are not very accurate. But there you can have a real time and adjust the green and red lights accordingly, and the traffic lights can actually become much more efficient than they are today. So all these will be LiDAR, touched by LiDAR, let's say.
Correct. And we can all use improvements in traffic, especially here in Miami and in Athens, I'm sure.
Certainly, I think more than Miami, but yes.
That is a very interesting space. Now it's different from shipping. So we know that from what you told me, the first SPAC needs to be within your field, right? Within kind of your field of study and so forth. But afterwards, then you can start moving into different areas, different technologies, different verticals. And so now you're in this LiDAR space. The merger is going to take place soon. And can anyone invest in your SPACs, or do you have to be an accredited investor?
Anyone can in any SPAC, not just our SPAC. Any investor or accredited, they can all invest at any time.
Okay.
And, yes, and just talking about this this company is important that you don't have just good technology, that it is important that it is usable. And to make it usable, it has to have commercial validation. I mean, nobody's going to use something that's very expensive. It's very good, but you have no real use for it especially in vehicles. And the company we're merging with managed to have the largest production win. That's how they call it in automotive terms of a contract for LiDAR with General Motors. And this is probably the largest such win in the world. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands. By 2025, we're talking a million or more vehicles equipped with Septon LiDARs because of the attributes that they have. And they are very complex technically, right? I mean,
imagine, yeah.
For me to explain, maybe an optical expert should, but as an engineer, I was really amazed at how elegant, let me use that word, how elegant the design, the technical design of Septon's LiDAR is. It can go behind the windshield, which is a very coveted and protected area. No other LiDAR does it so far.
Oh wow! Right, we see the Google Maps cars driving around. Are they equipped with LiDARs or those cameras?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, but you don't want to have a.
Yeah, you don't want to be driving around with a laser on your roof.
But there are other OEMs, automotive OEMs that have the LiDAR on the rooftop, but then you have other issues. If you drive in a marsh, maybe they will get dirty, and and you don't have a windshield wiper there, so you have to provide a cleaning mechanism, or it creates all kinds of problems. Not to mention, but I think the most important item there is the design. Our design can go on any car. On the ones that you have on top of the vehicle, you have to design the vehicle around the LiDAR, so that the bulb is aesthetically, correct. So you cannot use it on every model of your brand in the same way. Instead, cars can do it because it's inside the windshield and it's protected and it's what it is.
You talked about when you look for companies to invest in, you want a product that has a strong runway, has been a proven product in the marketplace. It's on an upward trend in terms of technology and use. How important, though, is the management component? Let's say you have a great product, but the management is questionable in terms of their leadership, in terms of their vision. How much do you weigh that into the equation?
Oh, a great deal, and it's not just that they are good. We have to have some chemistry. It's a long process, an arduous process, and the SPAC management with the company management have to hit it off pretty well from the get-go. Otherwise, you're gonna miss 24 months and you have to liquidate the SPAC. So it's very important to have a good, knowledgeable management. In this instance, we were also lucky. They're not just technically and they're all PhDs. There are, I don't know, 5 Stanford PhDs just on the technical side, as
Right.
chief technical officer. The CEO is a Stanford PhD. I mean, they know their field.
They know their stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really impressed.
And so now you're going to complete that deal. What's next for you? Are you going to keep continuing opening SPACs? What's on the horizon?
At least one more I will do. Maybe 2. Look, it's a taxing process.
Right.
You really have to work around the clock many times, because you have to look at so many targets. For this particular SPAC, we look at 116 targets.
Wow. 116.
Yes. We had 56 NDAs. That meant we had to do primary due diligence with those 56. We signed 5 LOIs.
Oh my goodness.
For one reason or another, the one LOI or another didn't work out because, for any reason, many companies think they are ready, but they're not really ready. They think they're ready. They're a private, very good company, good management, but being ready for the governance that's required, the whole works for being a public company. They're not ready, or they don't have PCAOB audited financials. Mainly, none of them does.
Right.
And they want to do it very fast, but you cannot do it fast if you don't have the audited financials per PCAOB.
You need to have everything lined up. You need to have all your ducks in a row.
Exactly. In the first meeting, you say, okay, we're going to have a 2-month delay, or maybe a 1.5-month delay just because of that. So let's start from there. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very interesting journey, believe me, because I reviewed satellite companies, reviewed LiDAR companies, reviewed biotech companies, and every single one has a very interesting story. May not work for the SPAC, but it is a learning journey for me, which I love. I love learning new things. So, yeah.
The fact that you need to comb through, 60 to 100 potential or more targets and then do 50 plus NDAs. I mean, just doing the due diligence on one company is time and taxing. To do it on 50 plus takes quite a team of talented individuals. I'm sure you're not doing this all yourself.
No, I'm not doing it all myself. And of course, you have people doing it for legal due diligence, and you have financial due diligence and so forth. But fortunately, being an engineer, I understand at least anything that is technically oriented. I have a pretty good understanding of where we're going, and to evaluate it on its merits. That helped me a lot, to tell you the truth, because many of the new companies that want to go public have a very difficult technical side to them. And you have to understand whether that's feasible technically, or it's a pie in the sky sometimes.
Yeah. Well, Akis, you've had a tremendous track record, and I want to wish you well and continued success. Where can someone reach out to you or find out more information about your SPACs now?
Well, we have a website. It's www.gcac.com. Any question, never mind if it's regarding the growth capital, this SPAC, or even
or any of the SPAC. Yeah.
I'm happy to respond.
Well, congratulations again on your success, my friend. Thanks for being on Game Changers, which is now a top 2% podcast in the world. If you've enjoyed this information, you enjoy the content, make sure to please subscribe and like and share with some friends that need to hear it. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for being a game changer.
If you loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers, please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.